Welcome to the New Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's New Cyber Frontier.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Shawn Murray with a new edition of the New Cyber Frontier. Today we have a special guest from our organization, Murray Security Services. We have Ryan Johnson. He is one of our interns this semester. Welcome, Ryan. Appreciate you joining us for the show.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be here.
Yeah, kind of got voluntold on that one. It's part of your internship. One of those things that you had to research when you came on board. What are all the contributions that that we make within the community? And one of them is right here on the New Cyber Frontier. So it's great to have you. This is the first time we've actually looked at the perspectives of our interns, our teammates that join us. And I'd love for you to give us a little bit about your background. You're an intern with our program. How did that happen? And what was the road that led you here, throughout your career?
Well, I basically grew up in Keystone, and it's a ski area. And,
Heck yeah.
I grew up in the ski industry. My parents had a ski shop up there, and every winter I was getting about 100 to 120 days on the slopes. And
I'm jealous.
It was a good life. I didn't know how good I had it when I was up there. And, when I was up there, I couldn't wait to get out of there, though, because I wanted to go to the big cities. And my path took me all the way up to Seattle, and then from there to Port Townsend, where I actually got a degree in wooden boat building and restoration.
Oh, man.
And after that, I ended up actually in Alaska. I planned on only being up there for a summer, and I ended up spending 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Did you become a nomad?
Yeah, I actually became a winter caretaker for a lodge, where I spent 7.5 months out in the bush by myself.
Wow.
With 1 dog and 3 cats. I had a lot of great conversations with them, though.
I'll bet.
I just started to worry if they started talking back.
Okay.
So, yeah, and basically I went back into the ski industry and bought a share into a ski shop.
Okay.
And ended up really enjoying that, but it started getting kind of bored with it, and because it's just the same thing day after day.
Right.
And also with the pandemic starting, I was kind of predicted how it was going to affect the ski industry. And I said, it's time to make a change. And so I decided to sell my stake, and I went to full-time at PPCC for cybersecurity.
Pikes Peak Community College here in Colorado Springs. Okay. And so somebody who is in the side of life that I enjoy when I'm not doing what I do professionally. So, you've learned a lot of things over the years, retail, dealing with people. You've done some travel. You've done some travel outside the United States as well.
Yeah, quite a bit. 3 trips to Asia, lasting between 6 and 10 months. And then I also did a bike ride across Canada from Vancouver Island to Halifax. And that took about 5 months. And then I did one last trip, too, of a motorcycle ride from Colorado to Tierra del Fuego, Argentina.
Yeah.
We covered 17,000 miles in 8 months.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you got to do all those things that I dream of doing when I retire. So you just did them before you did cyber. So, well, great. So you're in a cyber program at the Pikes Peak Community College here at Colorado Springs. So what's your degree program? What are you doing?
The degree program is cybersecurity. I'm not sure exactly the direction I'm going to go and specialize in yet, but I plan on transferring to UCCS and kind of work further on that at that time.
Okay. So University of Colorado Springs. Gretchen Bliss, great program manager. She works both over and on the Pikes Peak Community College side and in the internship program over at UCCS. And, I just want to hit back on a point you just made, and that is you're not sure what area you want to focus on yet. And so it's a good point to be made because there's a lot of different disciplines within information security or cybersecurity. I call that the new sexy term that's come around. It's still all about information security, which includes, the IT side. We look at 80% of our business processes are automated. Doesn't matter what your industry is. So we've got to focus on the technology, but there's also the human side of it. There's also the physical security side of it, which you've learned, being with us as a teammate. But there are so many different disciplines, and so you're getting exposed to some of those. Can you tell us a little bit about, some of the research projects that you've been asked to do since you came on board as one of our teammates?
Well, I think actually one of the smartest things I think we did at the beginning was just actually researching the company I'm working for.
Okay.
I found that quite beneficial. I highly recommend it to anyone. You got to know what your company stands for and who they work for and what exactly they do and who your boss is. It really kind of helps, your job in general. Yeah, I thought that was,
that's one of those things we learned a long time ago, right? But before you go for an interview for a job at a place, understand who the organization is, what their background is. Make sure you understand what their mission statement is, their vision statement. Who are they? What are their contributions to the community? And so what did you learn with all that?
Well, I learned that Murray Security Services is a very diverse. There's a lot of variety, very diverse. I mean, I was just very impressed with the different aspects. I mean, how you work with, with people internationally to small businesses.
Great. Well, what about, so one of your first research projects, that's one of the first things we do is we ask you to take a look at the organization, some of the employees, what are the contributions out into the community. So you learned that. What about some research projects supporting clientele or some of the things that we're doing?
Well, another research one was basically taking the apps from a recent physical assessment or vulnerability assessment, and taking the list of apps and doing research on them and trying to find vulnerabilities on it, which that was a pretty extensive list, but time-consuming. But it really kind of blew my mind about how many vulnerabilities there are out there.
Yeah, and so when we talk about that one client, we went in, we did a vulnerability assessment, and one of the things that we request is a list of their hardware and software to include all their systems, network devices, and then what are the programs, the applications that are installed on those systems as well. And the research project you're talking about identified a lot of what we call shadow IT applications. So, applications that don't necessarily support a business objective that employees may have had their permissions to be able to download and install. And we found some remote connection stuff. We found some gaming stuff, and then, to your point, you go out to the National Vulnerability Database, you take a look at the Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures Database, you take a look and see what the vulnerabilities are associated with those. It could be malware, it could be zero-day, specific threats like denial of service, what aspects of the applications can be exploited. So, good points. We're talking about the research projects. We are going to take a break. We're talking to Ryan Johnson. He is one of the new teammates. He's an intern at Murray Security Services. When we come back from this commercial break, we're going to continue that conversation.
Blockframe Technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Welcome back to the new Cyber Frontier. This is Shawn Murray. I'm your host today. We're talking to Ryan Johnson. Ryan's one of the interns at Murray Security Services. Is part of his internship program with the Pikes Peak Community College. We were talking about the research projects that some of the things that you've been doing. What about some resources? Talk a little bit about Code Red. One of the resources we've provided to fill the gaps in between assessments and research projects.
Yeah, I found Code Red pretty impressive, actually. There's a lot of different courses that you can look into and basically further your education in the field. One of my favorites was actually learning more about tunneling and the pros and cons and the vulnerabilities that still exist with tunneling.
Yeah, so when we talk about Code Red, this is a product provided by EC Council. It's one of those things that hundreds of different little courses. There could be little courses, half an hour, it could be an hour, it could be 4 hours. The idea is to learn different concepts, different things that, to supplement the skill set that you have or fill gaps about things that you don't know or learn about things that you didn't know that are providing value. So it's just one of those resources in between things to help you get the hours that you need for your program that we provide as well as for training. Let's talk about client engagements. So you've had an opportunity with some of our other teammates to listen in and interact with clients either on site during an assessment or we do remote meetings with clients all over the United States. And we had one just an engagement this last week with somebody of influence down with the Central Bank Authority in Central Africa. Why don't you tell us about some of these client engagements? What have you learned?
I felt like I was having to really jump at it and find, exactly what was happening within it, which I thought it was very interesting for the fact I think if I remember right, he's trying to go after the ISO 27001. 27001. And doing some research into that, it's, that's pretty extensive and then very time-consuming process.
Yeah, big framework.
And it also sounds like over there with their banking system, not all the banks are using cloud-based, or a good majority are not. So it would make the process for us to help them out a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and so, with that client specifically, they're looking for a unified approach to balance the requirements for an ISO 27001 ISMS, Information Security Management System, implementation for all of the banks. And, we came on with a preferred vendor that can demonstrate that level of compliance for the Central Bank Authority, who will be overseeing, performing the assessments, the audits. And so that's just one project that we're working on. What did you learn from, we did just recently a manufacturing plant. We did an assessment there. Why don't you give us a little bit about the background and what did you learn from a cybersecurity perspective, physical security perspective, social engineering? There's lots of different elements to vulnerability assessment, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I actually found it quite fascinating. Anything from just walking the perimeter, checking for cameras and who they belong to, and finding anything like, say, trees, any objects that a person could actually climb up onto the roof with. And after that, we basically dug through their recycle bin, pulling out a lot of paperwork, and we found 3 major flags. One of them being a lockbox recently installed that had, we found an email that basically gave the directions, the passcode to the lockbox.
The digital combination and what was inside the lockbox that provided value for the assessment.
Keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, they had all the facility keys, right, to everything.
Yeah, and to the server room, to very highly sensitive areas. I was just like, I was pretty blown away by how somebody could just carelessly, just without thinking about it,
throw it away in the trash, right?
Yeah.
So, that's not an automated means of collecting vulnerable information. That there's the physical security aspect of vulnerability assessments as well. So, humans are lazy. Sometimes humans don't have the right amount of education and awareness. And so they don't think about the things that they do on a day-to-day basis. So, there was a lot of information, a treasure trove of information in that blue bin in the copy room. And so, this provides awareness back to the organization. Maybe, there's a different way to dispose of those sensitive things instead of trying to change the culture of everyone trying to not throw things away. Maybe we should just shred everything that's in those areas, right? What other physical things were we able to determine inside the facility? And, I think we looked at alarm systems. We looked at doors, infrastructure. What other things did we see that were not necessarily technology related?
Well, for one, the doors, the locks. There's one door in the back of the building. You could easily jimmy with a basic plastic knife.
Plastic knife that you can get at the convenience store, right?
Exactly. At your hotel room, whatever. But within 5-10 seconds, boom, we're in.
About the same time, it would look as though you were using a key to enter the facility, so there would be no suspicion. And so, Ryan, these things that we observed over a couple of days being on site at the location, were we able to use anything that we found to do anything else?
Yeah, we actually found an email, or is it? I think it was an email or just an internal document with the 3 contacts for the alarm company.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting. You guys were able to discover the alarm system contact authorization letter. Yeah. So there's 3 contacts on that letter to the alarm company, letting them know who is authorized to act on behalf of the organization in the case the alarm company had to contact them, provided their information, provided their telephone numbers. What did we do with that?
Well, later that night, about 9 p.m., we basically was doing a social engineering, and we basically acted like we were the alarm company and calling these 3 individuals. And lo and behold, we actually got one of the individuals to give us their authorization code.
Yeah, we had a specific script that we went by, and so one of the 3 gave us an authentication password that we could have used, to contact the alarm company. So they've got alarm systems within the facility. Use that information to assure the alarm company that we were who we pretended to be, right? So provides additional, vulnerability that needs to be understood and known by the organization. One of the things that we talk about is the next day the employee gave us the notion that the passphrase that he gave was probably not the right one. So, right.
Correct. Yeah.
So what do? We do a probability assessment on that password, that passphrase. The likelihood that, he gave us something that was erroneous or something that was accurate. And based on that score, we either choose to use or not use that passphrase. Well, looking at Facebook, we were able to determine that he used a passphrase that was something that was familiar, probably his son's name and his son's age. And, lo and behold, on Facebook, we were able to determine that he had a son with a specific name, and that son just recently had a birthday that coincided with the password he used, which is about the time that he got appointed as the person, right? So it just makes sense that the high probability rating is more likely that passphrase was accurate. So we're talking to Ryan Johnson. He is an intern, part of one of our teammates at Murray Security Services. We are going to be back right after a short break.
Blockframe technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Welcome back to the New Cyber Frontier. This is Shawn Murray. We're talking to Ryan Johnson. He is a cybersecurity student over the Pikes Peak Community College here in the community, and part of that program is his internship at Murray Security Services. So one of our teammates, and he's been learning different things. Not everything is all, sexy glory. There's research that needs to be done. We have reports that we need to do. And, we attend meetings as well. Any meetings in the last week that, other than the one down in, Cameroon, that spark, any interest?
Yeah, we had another one, that has it's in an industry that requires a lot of, what do you want to call it? Like certifications or
a highly regulated industry, right?
Yes.
Yeah, a collections company, a credit collections company.
A lot of PII information that needs to be secured.
Yeah, and so different. They collect debt from different types of clients, right? So it could be medical, could be student loans, could be on behalf of another organization. But this organization here, this client is going through a lot of growth. What did we learn about a lot of the things, between the different things that they've got going on?
Well, way I understand it here is that they recently acquired a new company that they've taken
another
into
collections company. Yeah,
exactly. And trying to meld the two together. We're trying to come up with a game plan of how to keep the employees that are logging into the system separate, using 10 different VMs that are isolated from one another, and setting up a second server that's in-house.
Yep, and so we've got the newly acquisitioned personnel needing to be able to log into an environment that that can't change. They're also looking at outsourcing to Central America, call center personnel to be able to collect debt on behalf of the client as well. So that vendor brings its own risk if they're using their own computer systems. The idea would be for that the international call center folks to log into the virtualized workspace environment, so that there's no collection of PII associated with any of the call center work that they may be doing. So that's really important to the client. And so some of the things that we're advising is screen capturing or screenshots should be disabled, and you should have some type of mobile device policy that prevents them from also being able to take pictures of the screen. So the consulting aspect of what we do advises business owners, CEOs, business leaders on sound approaches to cyber hygiene. And this client, there's a lot of growth. They've got a growth strategy, acquisitioning other companies, and as they continue to move forward, looking at their vendors, their vendor relationships, the contracts, the service level agreements that they have as a vendor and on behalf of vendors as well. So understanding the risk associated with their industry. Did a lot of work with recently on a request for a proposal and looking at the language that goes in on demonstrating a sound cyber hygiene. You just can't say, yes, we have a SIM, yes, we have a firewall. Yes, we have user awareness and training. You have to demonstrate that stuff. We talked about ISO 27001. That's an international standard that an organization can be credentialed for a few years, and then it would have to be renewed. NIST is a big one here in the United States. So the CMMC, the cybersecurity maturity model. We have a lot of clients with a lot of different diversity in those things, and you've gotten a lot of exposure to the various types of frameworks. What do you think? You're going to finish out your internship here in the next couple months or so, and you're going to transition from Pikes Peak Community College into UCCS, University of Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And so what concentration, when you do that transition to UCCS, what concentration do you think for cyber you're going to focus on?
That's yet to be determined right now, but I'm actually more interested in the physical, the psychology, the social engineering aspect of things.
Well, that's a great transition. What happened to you recently as part of your internship that made you vulnerable to a cyber attack?
Well, I basically received a text from somebody that was playing you, actually.
Pretending to be me.
Yeah.
Impersonation.
And, he got me off guard. I mean, I just didn't realize. It's like, he just basically asked me if I could run a quick errand for him. And
for me.
For you.
For me. And what was I doing at the time? Why couldn't
you? Earlier in the day, I remember reading on the Facebook page that you had several engagements in the afternoon. And so I kind of put 2 and 2 together that, you were kind of tied up and you needed me to go run and do something really quick to kind of help you out. And I didn't know exactly what you had going on, but just using that information, basically, I just started doing it.
And what was it that they asked you to do?
They asked me to actually go to a local store and get some gift cards. It was a sense of urgency, which is a key big red flag. And basically, I went there and I actually did purchase those cards and scratched off the back and sent a picture off to him. And
which he requested that you do.
Exactly. And I was like, well, maybe, he needs to give the person the activation code for, like, if he's doing like a gift or a prize for whatever you had going on that evening. And then he later asked me to kind of stick around the store and to see if he needed anything else. And then when he started going and asking for another $600 worth of cards, is for the Google Play.
But that's after you told him that the other gift cards that he wanted, well, those were the last 3. There were none of
exactly. Yes.
So
yes.
Hey, let's get something else, right?
Yeah. So I mean, he actually asked me to take a picture of the stand. So, and he basically went through and was picking his choice of what the next best option was. But as when he actually asked me to get another set of $200 each card, I was like, something was starting to feel a little off. Now, when I look back at it, he's texting me from, no number, but knowing that you have a couple of phones, I was like, I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. And then I basically asked him to, text me from the known phone number. And he's just basically said, I didn't come across your number by accident.
Starting to be a little bit more abrasive, right?
And then
different level of influence.
Yeah, and then I basically told him to get bent. But during that time though, between that transition too, though, is that I ended up which I should have done at the beginning, is I should have contacted you directly with the phone number that I know that you use,
right,
and ask you if this is you. but being the sense of urgency and you might have been tied up with whatever you're doing that night that I thought you were doing that night.
I wanted to set a good example or that you're a team player, and those are the things. It's a social engineering attack, right? And the idea is, hey, I want to make sure that, my boss thinks I'm doing a good job and I want to help out and all of those things. This happens to executives quite a bit. This is a common social engineering attack, especially with the gift cards. And so, the idea here is, it can be embarrassing. It can be a humbling experience, but at the same time, the approach was, hey, let's take this opportunity to embrace this, because it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody can be susceptible to this type of attack. You looked at those indicators. There's some adjustments that I'm going to make in future relationships with interns that, hey, look, we will only communicate with you via text on these platforms. So there's adjustments we can make as well to make sure that that this doesn't happen again to us, or at least minimize the attempts. And then we embrace this. We turn this into a training. We turn this into something that's going to be positive that will help other people. But I think you relayed to me a further commitment based on this to the new industry that you've chosen.
Yeah. It actually is, this experience was very humbling, embarrassing.
Kind of pissed you off too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The toughest part though was telling my wife about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like,
you don't want to tell the boss.
Like, what? And that was pretty rough, but it's definitely given me a bigger drive to do what I'm doing and to kind of help other people, prevent other people from falling from the same type of stuff.
Absolutely.
And it just happened. It's like only maybe 2 weeks into the internship, this happened. So I was like, whoever this person was social engineering me, did it very recently and knew their stuff.
And using technology to be able to do that and influence your behavior. So great conversation. We've been talking with Ryan Johnson. He is a cyber student over at the Pikes Peak Community College, and part of his program is to intern at a organization. We got very lucky this year. We got to get Ryan over at Murray Security Services. We talked about research projects, code red, client engagements, meetings, and a very relevant social engineering attack. So social engineering, physical security, automated security, all these things are really important. That will wrap it up for this edition of the New Cyber Frontier. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us for this edition.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at NewCyberFrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this